Welcome to DirtFace. In this tutorial, we'll walk through creating a brand new fence in the Fence Builder, step by step. The Fence Builder is where you can digitally design and customize any fence you build, which you can then use to create fast and accurate quotes. The Fence Builder is powerful and flexible enough to create a template for virtually any fence system, no matter the style or material. Before we start, you'll want to make sure the parts needed to build this fence are already in your catalog. You can grab most of the components that you need from the DirtFace warehouse and then use them here to create templates. You can find that here in Catalog Tools. If you haven't already, I highly recommend watching our Catalog Basics tutorial first. It covers how the catalog is structured and will make using the Fence Builder much easier. Ready? Let's get started. From the side menu, select Fence Builder. You'll see that many common fences are already set up as templates. The fastest way to get going is usually to customize or duplicate an existing template. But for this tutorial, we'll start from scratch so you can see how everything works. Select the Build New Fence button. On the left, you'll see a progress bar that outlines each step: fence, images, posts, components, gates, and time. You can jump to any step from here, but we'll start at the top. First, on the fence page, choose the type of fence you're creating. Then, give your new fence style a name and a description. I recommend adding details that will help you tell it apart from other styles, things like material specs, available colors, or unique features. Next, enter the post spacing, and select all the height and color options available for this fence. Once you're done, click Continue. On the Images page, you'll see that the platform has already created every possible variation of your fence based on the heights and colors you just selected. This is a huge time saver. You can upload images for each combination to give yourself a clear visual reference for quotes. When you're ready, click Continue. Next up is the Posts page, where we'll set up the default terminal and line posts. First, let's figure out how long the terminal posts need to be. We'll calculate this based on two things: how deep the post goes into the ground, and how far it extends above the fence. For example, for a 4-foot fence that needs to be buried 2 feet, the total post length is 6 feet. Now that we know the length, let's choose the type of post. Since I'm building a residential chain-link fence, I'll go with a 16-gauge 2 3/8 inch post. Instead of searching for a single part, I'm going to search for the collection that contains all my 16-gauge posts of different lengths and diameters. This screen is split into 2 parts. On the left is a form for specifying the post details. On the right is a list of all your fence variations. Our goal here is to match the correct post from the catalog to each fence variation. You can see how the app does this automatically. Once I find the right collection, I can select a specific diameter I want, in this case 2.375 inches. As I do this, watch the right side of the screen. The components are automatically matched to all the fence style combinations. Just like that, every variation of my fence is paired with the correct terminal post. I'll save that and do the same for the line posts. This screen works the exact same way. I'll set the line post to go 2 feet into the ground. I want to use 1 7/8 by 16 gauge posts, so I'll find that collection and select a diameter of 1.875 inches. Perfect. Now let's move on to the other components. In this section, we'll add all the other parts that make up the fence and create formulas to calculate how many of each we need for a job. This section doesn't include gate parts. We'll handle those in a bit. Let's start with the chainlink mesh. First, I'll give this component entry a name: chainlink mesh. I see a toggle switch here, but I'll leave it off for now. I'll show you what that's for in a moment. Next, I'll choose the fence type and category this component belongs to. In this case, the fence type is Chainlink USA spec, and the category is fabric. Now, let's choose the Chainlink mesh collection from the catalog. For the galvanized versions of this fence, I want to use 2-inch 11-gauge mesh. For the black vinyl versions, I'll use 9-gauge. I'll start by searching for the 11-gauge mesh, and you can see the app automatically matches it to the galvanized fence variations. To add the black mesh, I'll click Add a Secondary Collection and search for the 9-gauge vinyl-coated mesh. And just like that, all fence variations are matched with the correct mesh. Next, we need to tell the system how to calculate the quantity. To do this, we'll use a formula. Since I calculate my mesh in linear feet, the amount I need is based on the total fence length. For a 100-foot fence, I need exactly 100 feet of mesh. In the formula builder, I'll select the total fence length variable. To get the exact amount, I would multiply the total fence length by 1. But I like to add a small buffer. I'll change the multiplier to 1.02, which adds an extra 2%. I'll then click Save. Let's quickly set up the top rail. I'm going to use a 1 3/8 17-gauge top rail. For this component, I need to enter the diameter and length of a single piece of rail. To calculate the quantity, I will divide the fence length by the individual rail length, which in this case is 10 feet. Next up, bottom tension wire. I use a different wire for galvanized and colored fences, so I'll add a secondary collection. For the quantity, I'll multiply the total fence length by 1.1 to add 10% for wrapping posts. Now for hog rings. I use the same 12-gauge galvanized hog rings for every fence regardless of height or color. Since the same part applies to all variations, I'll turn this toggle switch on. This lets me select a single component for every fence style. For the quantity, I attach one hog ring every 2 feet, so the formula is total fence length divided by 2. Let's add the ties. I need different ties for galvanized and colored versions, so I'll use a secondary collection. I use the same 6.5-inch ties for both the line posts and the top rail. To figure out the quantity, my formula is fence height plus 4, all multiplied by the total number of line posts. But maybe you have your own tried-and-true method for this. No problem at all. We designed this to be flexible, so feel free to enter any custom formula you need to calculate parts exactly your way. For line post tops, or I-tops, the formula is simple. Total line posts times 1. For dome caps, it's total terminal posts times 1. Next, we need to add the hookup fittings, the parts used where the fence attaches to a terminal post. For tension bands, the formula is fence height minus 1 multiplied by the total number of hookups. For brace bands, I need 2 per hookup. For rail ends, I need 1 per hookup. For tension bars, I also need 1 per hookup. The app already knows to select the correct length based on the fence height. Finally, the carriage bolts. I'm going to use the same galvanized carriage bolts for every height and color variation of this fence, so I will turn this toggle on. I need 1 for every tension band and brace band, so the formula is fence height plus 1 multiplied by total hookups. And that's it for the components. Now we can move on to gates. I'm going to add a residential square welded frame single swing gate. I'll first add a descriptor, residential single swing gate. I'll search for that collection. You'll notice that gates have a minimum opening, maximum opening, and a height. I have the option to use the default terminal posts for gate posts or add different gate posts. I am going to use the default terminal posts for this example. We'll cover using different gate posts in another tutorial. Now I'll add some gate hardware. I'll need 2 post hinges, 2 frame hinges, and 1 fork latch per gate. I could add more gate types like a double swing gate, but for now, let's move on to the final step, time estimates. To calculate installation time, I need to add at least one activity. Let's call it install fence. My crew can typically install 150 feet of this fence in an 8-hour day. I'll enter 150, select feet, enter 8, then select hours. On the right, I can test this with sample data. A 500-foot fence would take about 26.67 crew hours. You can get more accurate by breaking this down into smaller activities, like setting posts, stretching mesh, and so on. You can also add time estimates for each gate type. The app will use these formulas to automatically calculate your total estimated time for any job. I'll click Save, and now this template is ready to use in the design tool to create quotes. While we built this from scratch, remember the easiest way to get started is to import a pre-built template and simply edit it to match your specs. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out the next video where we'll walk through how to create your first fence quote step by step.